The alarm bells screamed through the Vulcan command center like angry metal birds. Red lights flashed across every wall, making the alien faces look like painted demons in the dark. Commander Vextar pressed his six-fingered hand against the control panel. His purple skin turned darker when he was angry, and right now it looked almost black. The Crimson Gate was supposed to be perfect. Nothing could get through. Nothing had ever gotten through. "Report," Vextar shouted at his officers. Lieutenant Corvus looked at his screen with wide eyes. "Sir, the defense grid went dark for exactly 4.7 seconds. All 12,000 sensors stopped working at the same time." "That's impossible," Vextar said. "The quantum barriers can't be turned off. Even we don't have the codes to shut them down completely." But the numbers on the screen didn't lie. For less than 5 seconds, the most protected space in the Vulcan Empire had been completely blind. Far away, in the empty darkness between stars, something moved that shouldn't exist. The human battleship Silent Thunder drifted through space, like a metal ghost. It was smaller than the giant Vulcan warships, but it carried weapons that could crack planets. More importantly, it carried something the aliens had never seen before: human cleverness. Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the bridge, watching the alien ships on his screen. He was a thin man, with gray hair and calm eyes. He had fought in 3 wars, before the aliens even knew humans existed. "How long until they notice us?" he asked quietly. Captain Hee-jin checked her instruments. She was young for a starship captain, but she could navigate through a black hole if needed. "They won't notice us at all, sir. Their sensors can't see what we are." "Good," Kyung-ho said. "Dong-wook, how is our cloak holding up?" Chief Engineer Dong-wook looked up from his control panel. He was a short, round man who could fix anything. "With metal and electricity." "Perfect, sir. The aliens built their sensors to look for alien ships. They never thought about looking for something completely different. The Silent Thunder was different. While alien ships used quantum drives and plasma shields, the human ship used technology that worked in ways the aliens never imagined. It didn't hide from their sensors. Instead, it made their sensors think it was just empty space. On the Vulcan command station, more bad news arrived. "Sir," another officer said, "we're getting strange reports from Patrol Fleet 7. "What kind of strange?" Vextar asked. 3 of their ships have gone silent. No distress calls, no explosions. They just stopped talking. Vextar felt something cold in his stomach. In 500 years of Vulcan military service, ships didn't just disappear. They got destroyed in battles. They sent emergency signals when attacked. They didn't vanish like morning mist. "Send a search team," he ordered. "We already did, sir. The search team found nothing. Not even wreckage." Meanwhile, Tactical Officer Min-ho was studying the alien patrol routes on the Silent Thunder. He was a smart young man who could see patterns where others saw chaos. "Admiral," Min-ho said, "the aliens moved their ships like clockwork. Same routes, same times, same formations. They've been doing it the same way for so long, they can't imagine doing it differently." "That's their weakness," Admiral Kyung-ho said. "They think their way is the only way." Weapons specialist. So Young smiled at her control station. She was a woman who could hit a coin from 1,000 miles away. "Sir, should we take out another patrol?" "Not yet," Kyung-ho said. "Let them worry first. Fear is a better weapon than lasers." The Silent Thunder moved deeper into Vulcan space, invisible and silent. It passed by massive space stations that could hold 1 million people. It slipped past defensive platforms that had enough firepower to destroy moons. None of them saw it coming. Back at the command center, Vextar was getting more reports that made no sense. "Commander," Lieutenant Corvus said, "we're getting reports from 17 different sectors. Ships are disappearing everywhere." "How many ships?" 43 so far, sir." Vexatar's purple skin went completely black. 43 ships didn't just disappear. Something was hunting them, but what could destroy Vulcan warships without leaving? "Any trace? Are we under attack?" he asked. "By who, sir? Our sensors show nothing. No enemy ships, no weapons fire, no unusual energy readings, nothing." But something was there. The Silent Thunder had been watching the Vulcan Empire for months, learning their secrets, studying their weaknesses. The humans had discovered something important. The aliens were very smart, but they only thought in straight lines. Communications officer Jiwoo was listening to alien radio chatter. She was a young woman with sharp ears and a sharper mind. "Admiral, they're scared. Really scared. They keep asking each other what's happening, but nobody has answers." "Good," Kyung-ho said. "Scared enemies make mistakes." Dr. Sang-min, the ship's expert on alien behavior, nodded. "The Valkans have conquered so many worlds that they forgot what it feels like to be afraid. This is new for them." The Silent Thunder continued its invisible hunt. It would appear next to a Valkan ship, fire once with perfect accuracy, then disappear before the explosion even started. To the other Valkan ships, it looked like their friends were just exploding for no reason. By the end of the day, 60 Valkan ships had vanished without explanation. Commander Vextar stood in his command center, staring at the empty screens. His officers whispered to each other in worried voices. Some talked about ghosts in space. Others wondered if their own weapons were malfunctioning. "Sir," Lieutenant Corvus said quietly, "should we report this to High Command?" Vextar thought about it. How could he tell his superiors that dozens of ships had been destroyed by an enemy that didn't exist? How could he explain that their perfect defenses had failed against something their sensors couldn't even see? "Not yet," he said. "We'll figure this out ourselves." But deep down, Vextar knew something had changed. For the first time in centuries, the Valkan Empire was being hunted instead of hunting. And somewhere in the dark between the stars, Admiral Kyung-ho smiled. The real war hadn't even started yet. Supreme Commander Zalthek slammed his fist on the metal table. The sound echoed through the war room like thunder. His red eyes burned with anger as he stared at the reports from across the Empire. 112 ships, he growled. Gone in 3 days, how is this possible? The other Valkan commanders sat around the table like scared children. These were aliens who had conquered entire star systems, but now they looked small and afraid. General Mordek spoke first. He was old, even for a Valkan, with scars covering his gray skin. "Supreme Commander, our scouts report strange things. Ships explode, but there are no enemy weapons fired. No attack ships on sensors. Nothing." "Then what's destroying our fleets?" Zaltek demanded. "We don't know, sir." Meanwhile, on the Silent Thunder, Admiral Kyung-ho was studying star maps with his officers. The human ship had moved deeper into Valkan space, invisible as always. Tactical Officer Min-ho pointed at the screen. "Sir, they're changing their patrol patterns. Look here. They've added random routes and extra ships." Captain Hyojin nodded. "They're trying to be unpredictable now, but they're still thinking like Valkans." "What do you mean?" Kyung-ho asked. Min-ho smiled. "They think adding more ships will help. But more ships just give us more targets. They can't imagine that we want them to send more ships." Chief Engineer Dong-wook laughed from his station. "It's like they're bringing us presents wrapped in metal." Weapons specialist. So-young checked her targeting systems. "Admiral, request permission to take out their supply depot in Sector 7. It's only protected by 20 ships." "Granted," Kyung-ho said, "but make it look impossible again." The Silent Thunder moved through space like a hunting shark. It could travel at speeds that would tear apart normal ships, but it made no sound and left no trail. The human engineers had built something that worked outside the rules the aliens knew. At the Valkan supply depot, Captain Rexmore was nervous. He commanded 20 of the Empire's best warships, but ships kept disappearing all around them. His crew jumped at every Shadow? Sensors report anything? He asked his officer. "Nothing, sir. Space is empty for light years in every direction. Keep scanning. Whatever's out there, we'll find it." But the humans had already found them. So-young lined up her shot with the careful precision of an artist. The Silent Thunder's weapons were different from alien guns. They didn't fire energy or bullets. They fired something much stranger, controlled explosions in space-time itself. "Target locked," she reported quietly. "Fire," Kyung-ho said. The Valkan supply depot simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a massive station full of weapons and food for the Empire. The next moment, there was only empty space and confused, Aliens Captain Rexmore stared at his screens in shock. Where did it go? Sir, the depot just disappeared. No explosion, no debris. It's just gone. That's impossible. But the humans had made the impossible look easy. Back in the Vulcan War room, the reports kept getting worse. Supreme Commander, an aide said, we've lost the Kepler supply station, the mining platform at Rigel 9, and 17 more patrol ships. Zalthek's red eyes grew brighter with rage. How long between attacks? 15 minutes apart, sir. But they happened in different star systems, hundreds of light years apart. No ship can travel that fast, General Mordek said. Then we're fighting more than one enemy, Zalthek decided. Deploy the hunter-killer squadrons, every single one. The hunter-killer squadrons were the pride of the Vulcan military. Each ship carried the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. They could detect a single atom of foreign metal from 1,000,000 miles away. They had never failed to find their target. Commander Velkar led Hunter Squadron Alpha, the best of the best. His ship, the Death's Edge, had destroyed over 1,000 enemy vessels. He was confident he would find whatever was hunting Vulcan ships. All sensors to maximum, Velkar ordered. Scan for heat, energy, gravity distortions, quantum signatures, dimensional rifts. If it exists, we'll find it. His crew worked with desperate efficiency. They knew their empire was under attack by something unknown, something that made ships vanish without a trace. Sir, his sensor officer said, I'm detecting unusual readings in grid 47B. What kind of readings? Very faint gravitational disturbance. Could be a cloaked ship. Velkar smiled with sharp teeth. Finally, all ships converge on grid 47B. We found our ghost. But on the Silent Thunder, communications officer Jiwoo was listening to their radio chatter and laughing. Admiral, she said. They think they found us. They're heading to grid 47B. Where are we? Kyung-ho asked. Grid 23C, sir. About 50 light years away from where they're looking. Minho looked up from his tactical display. Sir, they're using standard search patterns. Very thorough, very systematic. It would work against any normal enemy. But we're not normal, Kyung-ho said. Dr. Sang-min, the ship's alien expert, was studying Vulcan behavior patterns. They're getting desperate. Look at their radio traffic. They're starting to blame each other for the failures. Good, Kyung-ho said. Desperate enemies make bigger mistakes. The hunter-killer squadron searched for 3 days straight. They scanned every piece of empty space, every asteroid, every gas cloud. They found nothing. Meanwhile, the Silent Thunder destroyed 18 more Vulcan ships, always appearing where the aliens weren't looking, always vanishing before anyone could react. On the 4th day, Commander Velkar received new orders that made his blood turn cold. All hunter-killer squadrons returned to base immediately. The Gaur message said, Enemy has destroyed Hunter Squadron Gamma, no survivors. Velkar stared at the message. Hunter Squadron Gamma had been in a completely different sector, protected by defensive platforms and early warning systems. How had the enemy found them? How had the enemy destroyed 12 of the Empire's best ships without anyone seeing what happened? Sir, his sensor officer said quietly, should we continue searching? Velkar looked at the empty space around them. Somewhere out there, something was hunting the hunters. Something that could appear and disappear like smoke, strike like lightning, and vanish like it never existed. For the first time in his military career, Commander Velkar felt afraid. No, he said, we're going home. As the Vulcan ships retreated, Admiral Kyung-ho watched them go on his screens. They're learning, he said. They know they can't catch us with normal tactics. What will they try next? Captain Hye-jin asked. Minho studied the alien fleet movements. They'll try something desperate. Maybe start shooting at empty space, hoping to hit us by accident. Let them, Kyung-ho said. Every shot they waste makes them weaker. The hunt was just beginning, and the humans were winning, without the aliens even knowing what they were fighting. General Mordek stood in the wreckage field where Hunter Squadron Gamma used to be. His ship's lights cut through the darkness, showing twisted metal floating in perfect silence. But something was wrong with this wreckage. Very wrong. "Sir," his aide whispered, "look at the debris pattern." Mordek looked closer and felt his blood turn to ice. The broken pieces of 12 warships had been arranged in a perfect circle. In the center of the circle, smaller pieces spelled out strange symbols that hurt to look at. "What are those markings?" Mordek demanded. "We don't know, sir. Our computers can't translate them." But Dr. Sang-min on the Silent Thunder would have smiled if he could see the old general's confusion. The symbols were human mathematics, the golden ratio, pi, and the Fibonacci sequence. Simple concepts that proved intelligence, creativity, and artistic sense. "They're trying to communicate," Communications Officer Jiwoo had suggested when Admiral Kyung-ho approved the plan. "More than that," Kyung-ho had replied. "We're showing them we think while we fight. That's something they've never seen before." Now, 3 weeks into the Invisible War, the Valkan Empire was starting to crack. Ships disappeared every day, always leaving behind these strange mathematical messages. The alien commanders couldn't understand what they meant, but they understood one thing. Their enemy was playing with them. Supreme Commander Zalthek paced back and forth in his war room like a caged animal. Reports covered every surface, each one telling the same impossible story. Ships destroyed by nothing, weapons that fired from empty space, messages left behind in symbols no Valkan had ever seen. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked, for the 10th time that day. 273, sir," General Mordek replied. "But that's not the worst part." "What could be worse?" "The attacks are getting more artistic. Look at this report from Sector 12. Zalthek read the report, and his red eyes grew wide. The enemy had destroyed 6 ships but left the cargo containers untouched. The containers had been arranged to form a perfect geometric pattern, a shape that somehow looked beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "They're not just destroying our ships," Mordek said quietly. "They're making art out of the wreckage." On the Silent Thunder, the human crew was having a very different conversation. "The aliens are starting to break," Dr. Sang-min reported. "Their radio chatter shows fear, confusion, and anger. But more importantly, they're starting to doubt themselves." Admiral Kyung-ho nodded. "Good. Doubt is more dangerous to them than our weapons." Tactical Officer Min-ho was studying the latest Valkan fleet movements. "Sir, they're making mistakes. Now, look at this. They left a supply convoy completely undefended because they were too busy chasing sensor ghosts." "Should we hit the convoy?" Weapons Specialist So Young asked. "No," Kyung-ho said. "We're going to do something that will really scare them." The plan was simple but brilliant. Instead of destroying the convoy, the Silent Thunder would steal from it. The humans would take exactly half of everything, half the weapons, half the food, half the medical supplies. Then they would arrange what was left into another mathematical pattern. Captain Hye-jin piloted the ship with the skill of someone who could thread a needle while riding a hurricane. She brought the Silent Thunder alongside the Valkan convoy, so gently that the alien sensors didn't even notice the gravitational disturbance. Chief Engineer Dong-wook had built special equipment for this mission. Robot arms that could reach through the ship's cloaking field and grab things from outside. It was technology that broke several laws of physics, but humans had never cared much about laws they didn't write themselves. "Beginning cargo transfer," Dong-wook reported. For 2 hours, invisible robot arms moved supplies from the Valkan ships to the human ship. The alien crews never noticed anything wrong. Their cargo holds were still half full, which looked normal, on their sensors. But when the convoy reached its destination, the Valkan workers who unloaded it found something that made them scream. Every crate, every container, every single piece of cargo had been arranged in perfect mathematical spirals. The food formed one pattern, the weapons formed another, the medical supplies formed a third. Together, they created a design so complex and beautiful that it could only have been made by a mind that understood both science and art. And floating, in the center of it all was a message written in perfect Valkan text. "We see you. We understand you. We are not what you think we are." The report reached Supreme Commander Zalthek within hours. He read it 3 times before his brain accepted what his eyes were seeing. They were inside our convoy, he said slowly. Invisible, silent, taking whatever they wanted. And we never knew they were there. General Mordek was studying the mathematical patterns in the photographs. Sir, these designs, they're beautiful. Whoever made them thinks like an artist and a scientist at the same time. What kind of species fights a war by making art? Zalthek demanded. That was exactly the question the humans wanted them to ask. Communications. Officer Jiwoo began the next phase of the psychological campaign. She had been studying Valkan language and culture for months, learning how they thought and what they feared most. The Silent Thunder began broadcasting on every Valkan emergency frequency at the same time. The message was simple, but devastating. Attention, Valkan Empire. You have been observed. Your military tactics have been recorded and analyzed. Your technological limitations have been catalogued. Your strategic weaknesses have been mapped. This communication serves as proof that your security is an illusion. Your supremacy is an illusion. Your safety is an illusion. We are not your enemies, but we are not your subjects either. Consider this carefully. The message played once, then disappeared from their communication networks as mysteriously as it had appeared. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Across the Empire, Valkan commanders began to doubt everything they had believed. If an unknown enemy could hack their unhackable communications, what else could they do? If invisible ships could appear anywhere, was anywhere truly safe? Some Valkan fleets began shooting at empty space, hoping to hit invisible enemies. Others refused to leave their bases, afraid of being picked off one by one. The Empire's military coordination collapsed as fear spread faster than their fastest ships. Sir, an aide reported to Zalthek, Admiral Rexthor is requesting permission to withdraw his entire fleet to the home system. Denied, Zalthek snapped. Sir, Admiral Veltara is asking the same thing. And Admiral Morgex. And Admiral, they're all asking to come home? Zalthek interrupted. Yes, sir, they say they can't fight an enemy they can't see. On the Silent Thunder, Admiral Kyung-ho watched the Valkan fleet movements with satisfaction. The alien ships were clustering together like frightened animals, abandoning their outer territories and pulling back toward their homeworlds. They're breaking faster than I expected, Minho observed. Fear is a powerful weapon, Dr. Sangmin said. We've shown them something they've never encountered, an enemy that thinks completely differently than they do. The question is, Captain Heejin said, what do we do when they're completely broken? Kyung-ho smiled. Then we introduce ourselves properly. The psychological war was working perfectly. The Valkan Empire, which had never lost a battle in 500 years, was destroying itself from the inside, all because they had encountered something they couldn't understand. Humans who fought with creativity, artistry, and a complete disregard for the rules of conventional warfare. Soon, it would be time for the next phase of the plan. Archon Prime Velthar was the oldest living Valkan in the Empire. He had ruled for 300 years and conquered 50 star systems. But today, sitting in his golden throne room, he looked like a frightened old man. Tell me again, he said, to his top scientist, what your analysis found. Chief Scientist Zortek held up a data crystal with shaking hands. Your Excellence, we studied the attack patterns, the mathematical messages, and the stolen cargo arrangements. Our computers ran 1 million simulations trying to understand the enemy's technology. And they don't use technology the way we understand it. Their ships don't follow the laws of physics that govern our universe. Velthar leaned forward. Explain. Our sensors look for quantum signatures, energy emissions, gravity distortions, all the things that every ship in the galaxy produces. But these enemy ships, they somehow exist in the spaces between our reality. The words hung in the air like poison. For centuries, the Valkan Empire had believed their science was perfect, their understanding of the universe complete. The idea that someone could think differently was impossible to accept. Meanwhile, deep in Valkan space, the Silent Thunder was preparing for its most daring mission yet. Science Officer Yun Su stood at her station, running final checks on the ship's reality-bending engines. She was a young woman who understood mathematics that would make alien scientists cry. "Admiral," she reported, "the dimensional phase shifters are ready. We can slip into their home system whenever you want." Admiral Kyung-ho looked at the star map showing the heart of the Vulcan Empire. Their capital world was protected by 10,000 warships, orbital defense platforms, and energy shields that could stop a black hole. "Dong-wook," he called to his chief engineer, "can our cloak hide us from that much scanning?" The round engineer grinned. "Sir, their scanners are looking for ships that exist in normal space. We'll be existing in slightly sideways space. They'll never see us coming." Chief Analyst Hyun-woo was coordinating the final phase of their mission. He was a quiet man who could see patterns in chaos and find order in madness. "Sir," Hyun-woo said, "our intelligence shows the Vulcan leadership has called an emergency meeting. They're trying to figure out what they're fighting." "Perfect timing," Kyung-ho said. "Take us in." The Silent Thunder began its impossible journey to the center of the Vulcan Empire. It passed by defense stations that could destroy planets. It slipped through energy fields that could tear apart atoms. It moved through space that was supposed to be impossible to enter. None of the Vulcan defenses even noticed it was there. Under the capital world, the emergency meeting was not going well. "We've lost over 400 ships," General Mordek reported. "Our outer territories are completely undefended, and we still don't know what we're fighting." Supreme Commander Zalthek slammed his fist on the table. "It has to be the Zentari. They're the only species with technology advanced enough to—" "No, sir," interrupted Chief Scientist Zortek. "We've analyzed every known species in the galaxy. None of them could do this. The technology we're seeing, it's completely alien to everything we understand." "Then what are we fighting?" Archon Prime Velthar demanded. "Something new," Zortek said quietly. "Something that thinks about reality in ways we never imagined." At that exact moment, the Silent Thunder materialized in the space above their heads, not outside the planet, not in orbit around the planet, actually hanging in the air directly over the capital city, invisible to every sensor but clearly there for anyone who looked up. The first sign something was wrong came when shadows fell across the throne room windows. Velthar looked outside and saw something that shouldn't exist. A metal shape blocking the sun, hanging in the sky like a dark omen. "Activate the planetary defense grid," Zaltek shouted. "Sir," his aide replied, "the grid doesn't show any targets. According to our sensors, there's nothing there, but we can see it." "Yes, sir, but our computers say we're looking at empty sky." On the Silent Thunder, Communications Officer Jiwoo was preparing the most important message in human history. "Admiral," she said, "we're receiving thousands of EU communications from the planet below. They're very confused." "Let them be confused for a few more minutes," Kyung-ho said. "Then send the message." The message that went out to every communication system in the Vulcan Empire was simple, but earth-shaking. "People of the Vulcan Empire, we are humans. We come from a small blue planet you have never noticed. For months, one of our ships has moved through your space, studying your civilization. You could not see us because you never imagined something like us could exist. We are not here to conquer you. We are not here to destroy you. We are here to introduce ourselves as your equals. We suggest we talk." The silence that followed was deeper than the space between stars. Then slowly, Archon Prime Velthar stood up from his throne. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "Open a communication channel," he said. "To who, sir?" "To the humans." Minutes later, Admiral Kyung-ho was looking at the holographic image of the most powerful being in the Vulcan Empire. And Velthar was looking at a small gray-haired human who had just changed the galaxy forever. "You're so small," Velthar said, almost whispering. "Size isn't everything," Kyung-ho replied calmly. "Your empire spans 1,000 worlds, but one human ship has been living in your house without you knowing it was there." "How?" Velthar asked. "How is this possible?" "Because you think like Vulcans," Kyung-ho said. And we think like humans. We see the same universe you do, but we see different possibilities. Chief Scientist Zortek pushed forward. Your technology, it breaks our understanding of physics. No, Kyung-ho said. It breaks your assumptions about physics. The universe is much stranger and more wonderful than you imagined. We're just better at being strange. What do you want? Zalthek demanded. To not be exterminated when you discover us, Kyung-ho said honestly. Your empire has a habit of destroying species that might challenge you. We wanted to prove we couldn't be destroyed before we said hello. And if we refuse to accept you, as equals? Velthar asked. Kyung-ho's smile was small but terrifying. Then you'll spend the rest of your existence wondering when the next invisible ship will appear in your bedroom. The truth hit the Valkan leaders like a physical blow. This wasn't just one ship. This was a demonstration. Somewhere out there, an entire species of these impossible humans was waiting to see what happened next. How many ships do you have? Velthar asked. Enough, Kyung-ho said. But we'd rather be friends than use them. The galaxy had just become a much more interesting place. 3 hours later, Ambassador Taehyun stepped out of a small human shuttle and onto the marble floor of the Valkan throne room. He was a tall, calm man who had spent years preparing for this moment. First contact with the Galactic Empire. Valkan leaders stared at him like he was a ghost made real. Here was a human, walking and breathing in their most secure building, carrying nothing but a briefcase and a smile. Your Excellence, Taehyun said, bowing politely to Archon Prime. Velthar, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. How did you get here? General Mordek demanded. This building is protected by energy shields that could stop a nuclear bomb. We asked nicely, and your computer let us through, Taehyun replied. Your security systems are very polite once you know how to talk to them. Supreme Commander Zalthek's face turned dark purple. You hacked our planetary defense network? We prefer to think of it as making friends with your computers, Taehyun said. They're quite chatty once you get to know them. On the Silent Thunder, still hanging invisible over the capital city, Admiral Kyung-ho was watching the meeting through hidden cameras that had been in the throne room for weeks. He's handling it well, Captain Hyojin observed. Taehyun has nerves of steel, Kyung-ho agreed. But let's see how they react to the real revelation. Back in the throne room, Velthar was trying to understand what humanity represented. You said you wanted to be equals, he said. What does that mean exactly? Taehyun opened his briefcase and pulled out a simple data pad. It means we want to join the galactic community as partners, not subjects. We have technology you need and you have knowledge we want. We can help each other. What technology could you possibly have that we need? Chief Scientist Zortek asked. Taehyun smiled. Well, for starters, we know how to make ships that your sensors can't detect. That might be useful for exploration, or trade, or 100 other peaceful purposes. And what do you want from us? Everything, Taehyun said simply. Art, music, literature, history, science, philosophy. You've had civilization for thousands of years longer than us. We're very curious about what you've learned. The honesty in his voice surprised the Valkans. They had expected demands for territory, or threats of war, or some kind of ultimatum. Instead, the humans just wanted to learn. But first, Taehyun continued, we need to establish some ground rules for our relationship. Such as? Velthar asked. No attempts to conquer or enslave humanity. No attacks on human worlds or ships. No experiments on human subjects. Basic respect for our independence. And if we refuse? Zalthek growled. Taehyun's smile became a little less friendly. Then Admiral Kyung-ho will demonstrate that the Silent Thunder wasn't our only invisible ship. As if summoned by his words, new shadows began falling across the throne room windows. The Valkan leaders looked outside and saw something that made their blood turn to ice. 12 more human ships were materializing in the sky above their capital. Ships that their sensors still couldn't detect. Ships that could have destroyed their entire world at any moment over the past few hours. 13 ships, Velthar whispered. You brought 13 invisible warships to our capital system. Actually, Taehyun said cheerfully, we brought a lot more than that. The sky above the Valkan capital filled with human ships. 50, then 100, then so many that they blocked out the sun completely. Each one was invisible to Valkan sensors but clearly visible to Valkan eyes. How many? General Mordek asked in a voice like broken glass. Enough to ensure this conversation goes well, Taehyun replied. But we'd really prefer not to use them. War is expensive and messy, and we have better things to do with our time. On the Silent Thunder, Admiral Kyung-ho opened a communication channel to the Valkan throne room. Your Excellence, his voice said from speakers throughout the building. I want to be very clear about something. Every ship you see outside could have been here for months without you knowing. We could have taken your capital, your fleet bases, your industrial worlds, any time we wanted. But we didn't. Why not? Velthar asked. Because conquering is easy. Building something better is hard. We'd rather build something better. Taehyun nodded. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to be part of it. But we'll be part of it as equals, or we'll stay home and leave you alone. Your choice. The Valkan leaders looked at each other with expressions of shock, fear, and something that might have been relief. After months of invisible attacks and impossible demonstrations, the humans were offering them a way out that didn't involve total defeat. What guarantee do we have that you won't change your minds? Velthar asked. What stops you from conquering us later? The same thing that stopped us from conquering you today, Kyung-ho's voice replied. We don't want to. Ruling people who don't want to be ruled is a full-time job, and we have more interesting things to do. Like what? Zortek asked. Exploring new worlds, creating new art, solving impossible problems, making friends with species that think differently than we do. Taehyun's smile was genuine. The universe is a big, wonderful, strange place. We'd rather explore it than control it. Chief Scientist Zortek leaned forward. Your ships, the technology that makes them invisible, would you share it? Some of it, Taehyun said, in exchange for some of your technology, and your history, and your music, and your recipes for those little purple cakes we saw in your cultural database. Despite everything, Velthar almost smiled. You want our cake recipes? Food is very important to humans, Taehyun said seriously. Good food can prevent more wars than good weapons. The negotiations continued for 6 hours. In the end, the agreement was simple. Humanity would be recognized as an independent species with full rights in the galactic community. The Valkan Empire would not attempt to conquer or control human space. In return, humans would share selected technologies and join the galactic trade network. As the sun set over the Valkan capital, the human fleet began to fade away like morning mist. One by one, the invisible ships returned to whatever strange dimension they came from, until only the Silent Thunder remained. Admiral Kyung-ho stood on his bridge looking down at the world that had just become humanity's first galactic ally. So, Captain Heejin said, what do we do now? Now we go home, Kyung-ho said, and we tell Earth that we have neighbors. Think they'll be surprised? Communications Officer Ji-woo asked. Kyung-ho smiled. They're going to be terrified, excited, confused, and curious all at the same time. In other words, they're going to react like humans. The Silent Thunder began its journey back to Earth, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the Valkan Empire began the difficult process of accepting that they were no longer alone at the top of the galactic food chain. The age of human isolation was over. The age of galactic partnership had begun. And somewhere in the dark, between the stars, other species began to wonder what these humans might want from them.